John Faranda, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I'm excited to have you on this little podcast video cast.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be invited, Eric.
Yeah. I thought, I would love to start kind of just getting to know you and your story better because from my perspective, you are a person who's synonymous with CMC. It's like impossible for me to think about a time before you, if you will, just because you're the happy face that all of us alums come back to see. And so I thought maybe you could start by just telling me, how did you get to know of CMC, and maybe why did you choose to attend to CMC when you were a high school senior?
Oh, good question. Thank you. Um, well, my dad went to Occidental College, and like a good alum, he'd taken me to some football games and alumni weekends and things like that. So in my mind, I kind of imagined I might always go to Occidental College. I grew up in Orange County, and I knew I didn't want to go too far away from home. I like the California weather and the other amenities. Um, but I looked at other colleges around Southern California and thought about the East. But Claremont McKenna, because it focused on government and economics, and those were things that I knew I wanted to do. I was student body president in high school, and that I knew that was my interest. And it was really some of my dad's friends who were kind of telling me that Occidental was a college that had its heyday, and that Claremont was a college that was getting better, and that the reputation of the Claremont colleges was going to soon outpass Occidental. And I think clearly it very much has and did right about the time I was enrolling. So it just turned out to be a great choice for me. It turns out that my freshman year, my family moved to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
staying close to home was not an option anymore.
Wow.
But of course, I had the good weather and other things that Claremont brought. And I did do the Washington semester program.
Oh.
I spent my summers in Saudi Arabia, which is not the time to visit, but the DC program is what I did kind of instead of study abroad because I was spending quite a lot of time abroad already.
And I got to ask then, so most people, when they're in the DC program, do an internship. What was your internship while you were there?
Because I was kind of interested in economics too, I did an internship at the Capital Group, the mutual
Okay.
fund investment company based in Los Angeles that has a Washington research office, and so that was my job in DC.
That's extremely cool. And what I have to ask, what brought your family? I mean, it sounds like it was job related, but what
Oh yeah,
exactly
my
brought them to
my
Saudi
dad worked
Arabia?
my dad worked for the Northrop Grumman Corporation that
Of
had a
course.
big contract with the Royal Saudi Air Force, building air bases and selling airplanes and building hospitals and stuff like that in
That
Saudi
is
Arabia. It was
that's really
fun.
wild. That's really wild. I think of you then as, such of a local SoCal guy. Wild to know that actually post high school there was Saudi Arabia in the mix.
Yes,
Um,
and it was a little odd because of the Air Force connection, we had an APO address. So
oh,
my mail went to New York, and the college kept thinking I was a New Yorker. And I'm like, well, no, I'm kind of a Saudi, but I'm really a Californian. But I don't have anything to do with New York except that's where I get my mail.
wow, that is so crazy. I never knew that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to know too. You graduated class of 1979, and there was a period of time after graduation, but before you came back to CMC to run the alumni group, that I don't know if you had an affiliation with Claremont at the time, but there was a 6 year gap between 69 and when you came back to the school in 85. What was John Faranda like from those times?
Yeah, well, I was a government major. I wrote my senior thesis on congressional ethics for
Mm,
George Benson, the founding president of the college.
mm,
And my first job I got through an alumnus who graduated the year before me, John Fioretta, class of 78, who
mm.
was working at the Los Angeles County Bar Association, staffing their fee and ethics and kind of arbitration committee for the Bar Association. And so John had hired me to be a successor at the LA County Bar Association, uh, and which was great. And through that, I got to know people at the LA County Medical Association. So after a year, I went to work at the LA County Medical Association, staffing their ethics committee. And but at this time, I was a volunteer for the Alumni Association, doing phonathons and things like that. And I helped the Alumni Association with student relations. One night I was at the Athenaeum, like for the senior class dinner or something, must have been in the fall, maybe a freshman welcome dinner at the Athenaeum. And Jill Stark said, John, you're such a good volunteer. Jack should put you on the payroll. And a few months later, I got a letter from Jack Stark offering me a job at the college. And
That's amazing.
I decided to come back, and I started working on the Alumni Fund annual giving work, and that kind of progressed. And 39 years later, I'm still here trying to raise money for the Alumni Fund.
That's an amazing story. I have to ask, you're a man of many talents, but maybe the thing that you are best at of anyone I've ever met is knowing people's names. You walk into a room and you shake everyone, you know their first name. You don't have to look at their name card. How do you do what you do? Is it God given? Is it trained? Do you have like a book where you memorize people's faces? How do you do that?
It's hard, but I don't know. Yeah, it just is some. I think it's something that I have a facility for. I said I was
Yeah,
student body president in high school. I kind of
right,
knew everyone in my high school, and
right.
always one of my shticks. I mean, one of the odd things about it, though, Eric, is I know lots of people's first names. Sometimes I don't know their last names. And I
Interesting.
will say that Facebook for
Sure.
getting to know students on campus really helped. And I'm at a huge disadvantage now because no current student has Facebook. Well,
Oh,
10 of them do.
wow.
So,
Is
so
it just like
to kind of,
Instagram? Do you know?
they mostly use Instagram and
Fascinating. How times have changed. How
but
times
even on
have changed.
Instagram, it's so hard to tell what people's real names are.
Oh, sure. Wow. That poses a real challenge. That
It
poses a
is so
real challenge.
yeah, it's a little bit different than
Yeah.
used to be a good way to keep track of people. But yeah, somehow I just know. I mean, the other thing that a little secret when we're having a CMC event, I can look at all the name tags in advance and kind of get
Sure.
a refresher of, okay, I know she's coming. And then when she walks in, I don't have to pick her name out of
Right.
13,000. I just have to pick her
Right.
name out of the 80 people who are coming to the event.
There had to be that trick. Otherwise, I would have assumed that you're part, human, part chat GPT, like crazy, recall or what have you. I'm still impressed, right? It still takes a lot of hard work to do what you do, but it's something that I've always been curious about because your ability to just instantly recall people's names is truly
And I think I
admirable.
try to associate people with stories and ideas. And, I mentioned that I got out your class yearbook to take a
Yes,
look. And it's just amazing looking at these photos, how many people, I can think about. Oh,
sure.
I remember this, I remember that. Oh,
Yeah.
there they are. What good times we had.
Yeah. Well, I know, you don't have to say this. Maybe you're not allowed to say this. I can say this. We all know the class of 2009 is the greatest class that ever graduated at Claremont. And I know that you are not allowed to say that because you have to think that they're all equal, but we both know that 2009 is the best. Maybe, because you've been with the college for almost 40 years in an alumni capacity, you've probably seen a lot of changes to the student body over the time. And maybe you could, and you talked about Instagram. Maybe there have been some technology changes that you've seen have impacted the student body. I'd love for us to maybe kind of look back in the 2005, 2009 era. What was like coming up new at the time that is notable to you in your memory of that era of Claremont?
Yeah, thank you. Well, one interesting thing is that cell phones and technology really became prevalent at when you were students,
Right.
and I remember Phil Trapham, one of your
Of
classmates.
course. Love Phil Trap.
aunt, his aunt would come to our lacrosse games, and she'd always tell me, "John, you really need an iPhone." And I kept telling her, "I don't want to spend the money. Why would I need an iPhone? I don't want an
Right.
iPhone." And at one of the lacrosse games, she told me works for AT&T, or used to work for AT&T. She gave me a new iPhone, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to start using this iPhone. And and so I still have one.
There you
But
go.
I looked at my phone in your era, I have one photo from the year of 2008, which is
Crazy.
actually at a rugby game,
Oh,
men's
amazing.
rugby game. But in 2009, I have 65 photos left on my phone from 1969, your graduation year, including some of your classmates here. But then I looked in 2019, so 10 years later, I have 2,622 photos on my
Wow.
phone. So
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
photos and sharing photos, Facebook and that whole kind of digital revolution
Yeah.
happened in your era. And I guess, thinking about your era, one of the sad things, I suppose, is the 2008 meltdown that I know
Right.
affected your class and your employment prospects, and what the world looked like as the college was cutting back, employers were cutting back. That was a tough time, and
Yeah.
it's just cool to see that we've all come through it, and things have gotten so much better. But at the time in 2008, that was a little tough.
Yeah. Well, it warms my heart to know that your first photos in your iPhone are of the greatest Claremont class of all time, the class of 2009, or at least of that era. And
Yes.
it's interesting you mentioned this because I didn't get an iPhone, I don't think, until 2010, 2011. I have no photos on my phone from college. And when I look back on Facebook at the earliest memories, like it's we straddled an era of like, I think our there was almost this you weren't being filmed, you wouldn't, you had to like, I still wonder how I met up with friends at lunch, because I don't even think I had texting in my freshman or sophomore year. So like, did I just go to Collins by myself? I actually don't remember. Did I just go to Collins by myself and sit down next to people that I recognized, or did I call people? I don't think I called people. But it's amazing that the technology sort of like revolution and how that's impacted uh, college campuses, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You made mention that some of your first photos are of rugby, but I also know that you're really close and have had a really big impact on the lacrosse team, and would love to know, are you still, working with the lacrosse team? What can you tell me about the lacrosse team today? I'm hoping that there are some lacrosse team members who are watching this and can get some
Oh,
good info
sure.
from you on what's going on.
Yeah, of course. Euro was we had women's lacrosse as a
Right.
varsity sport coming along,
Right.
and I think a year after you graduated, the Athenas won the lacrosse championship. But
Amazing.
men's lacrosse was always the five college club sport,
Right.
and
Right. The
I helped them a
Cougars.
lot with the Cougars. I helped them a
Right.
lot with their fundraising,
Right.
and lots of fun opportunities. I did write down in your class, there's so many all conference and all Americans.
Oh, I would love to hear
Max
it.
Max Sanford, Alex Price, Phil Trapp, Logan Brown,
Wow.
Ashton Clark, and Scott Trimble.
Wow.
They did. It was really the heyday era for men's lacrosse. Um, the team won the Ace Adams Sportsmanship Award from U.S. Lacrosse that
Wow.
year for having the most sportsmanlike team, and they defeated University of San Diego in the SLC championship
Wow.
playoff game. They ended up losing to the University to San Diego State 8-9 for the
Ugh.
for the championship. But it was really a great heyday of lacrosse. Traveling around and doing that, that was a lot of fun. But men's rugby was also doing well.
Yeah.
Um, and I did a little search for athletics for your era,
Please. Yeah.
and every team, it seems, was doing
At the top.
really
Love
well.
that. That's that
Um,
2009 magic.
yes, men's cross country and basketball both won SCIAC championships.
Okay.
Stag and Athena soccer and
Hmm.
Stag and Athena track and field won SCIAC championships.
Love that.
Stag swim and dive and
Yeah.
Stag tennis won the championship, and your class now has their first inductee into the Claremont Mud Scripps Athletic Hall of Fame, which is Larry Wang, who
Oh, of
was
course.
inducted for men's tennis
Yeah.
just a year ago.
Well, I remember, just to pause briefly on that, I remember freshman year, I think it was the first ever snack that I went to. I don't know if snack is still a thing, but some of my
Yes.
fondest memories were at snack. And I'm talking to Guy Shills. Shout out to Guy Shills,
Yes.
and you're like, look, this is gosh, almost 20 years ago now, so this could be my memory's a little hazy, but I was like, hey, what did you do this weekend? And I think he was like, well, Larry and I were in a tennis tournament, and Larry is the national champion. And I was like, this was like probably September of our freshman year or something. It was something like, we're still getting to know each other. And it's like,
Right.
holy smokes, this guy just won nationals. So that's amazing. I love that we have our first Hall of Fame inductee.
Yeah. And I didn't answer your question about men's lacrosse. Yes, I'm still helping men's lacrosse.
Good. Great.
I was at practice last night until 10:30.
Wow. Late
They're
practice.
yeah, they're going strong though.
Good. Good. Good.
They do miss playing. All the games used to be played on parents' fields, so a lot of people would see them. We
Mm.
now play the games on a turf field that's on the top of a parking garage at Pomona College.
Oh, wow.
So it's a place that no one will just walk by and watch 5 minutes of a game.
Sure. That's a bummer. That's a
Yeah.
bummer. All the more reason for alumni to get out to campus and cheer, because it sounds like we're not getting drive-by fans anymore. We got to get
There you
people
go.
who make a
Yes.
point. Yeah, love that. I interrupted you through the athletics. Were there other athletic?
No, I mean that just going really strong. And I suppose the thing that your class would be interested in hearing about a little more is that we have plans to continue to enhance our athletic facilities.
Cool.
Excuse me, adding Roberts Pavilion obviously was a great
Yeah.
thing for the college, which happened uh, at the time of your last reunion. So
Yeah.
it's now
Yeah.
11 years old, I think. Um, but through this $1 billion fundraising campaign that CMC just concluded, part of that was to purchase the old gravel quarry, the pit on the
Oh,
other
yeah.
side of
Of course.
Boulevard. George Roberts helped us with that, so we call this the Roberts Campus.
Oh, love
And
that.
the plans now, we are in the fundraising stage to raise money for a football stadium,
Oh,
track
wow.
and field stadium,
Wow.
which would mean one stadium, uh, baseball, softball, a golf practice facility, as
Cool.
well as a Athena lacrosse field.
Hmm.
And the idea is that over time, sports will move over into the sports bowl at the Roberts campus, and we hope to build a tunnel under Claremont Boulevard that would connect, like where
Wow.
the senior apartments are, and would come out
Sure.
at underground, but the football level will be sunken down in the pit, so
Wow.
it come out at the level of the football stadium, which would be really good. And then over time, soccer would move to play in the current on Zinda Field in the current Burns Stadium.
Okay.
So
Wow.
big
Lots of
plans to enhance
lots of
athletics.
changes. And just, because you're the man with all the information, I feel like when I was at Claremont Senior, that was a known that was we knew we wanted eastward expansion. There was big plot of land. It sort of just made sense for us to have it. These plans you're talking about, are they 10-year plans? Are they 5-year plans? Like, is it happening? Are we breaking ground next year? What do you think the timeline is with some of these athletic facilities you're talking about on the other side of Claremont Boulevard?
We hope sooner rather than later. We have to complete the fundraising to make that happen.
That makes
But
sense.
when you come back to campus for your reunion in a couple weeks, I hope, or
Yes.
whenever you see this, but you'll notice that there's a huge building being built on the baseball field. So RC baseball
Oh.
field is no longer. We
Oh.
no longer have a home field for Stag baseball.
Yeah.
They're playing some games at Pomona. They're playing some games at Azusa Pacific. They're
Wow.
all upland. I mean, they're practicing all over. So we need to get that started. So
Yeah.
yes, uh, the plan uh, is more quickly to try to get that going, Eric.
Got it. Yeah.
So yes, I think we hope to break ground next year and then have that finished in another year. Um, so we shall see. And then a cool thing to see, which when you come back for alumni weekend, we will be able to take people on some tours to see the new science building, which is
Oh,
the
yeah. Cool.
Robert A. Sciences Center, which
Yeah.
houses the new Kravis Department of Integrated Science.
Okay.
So what Mr. Kravis did was gave us money to basically help build a new science program for CMC that will integrate data science with computer science and the hard sciences. We'll focus on the environment, the brain, and health,
Cool.
and try to build a department that's not siloed with biology, chemistry, physics,
Sure.
that's integrated where biology, chemistry, physics, and data science are part of all of the classes.
Yeah.
Every freshman in their introductory science class will learn Python with
Oh,
the hope
wow.
that then they can use Python in the rest of their time as a student, helping them with psychology classes and econ classes and government classes to have that Python under their belt.
That's great to hear. I guess one of the things that everyone is sort of waiting to see a technology change is like ChatGPT and how AI will impact, everything, right? But I'd
Yes.
imagine, I remember being at Claremont and being a recent grad and wishing I knew, and this is going to sound so silly, but just like more about Microsoft Excel because I was in it all day. And these like tools and being able to code, build a macro or whatever would have been so helpful. And I'm really glad to hear then that the students today are learning Python as a sort of requirement because, I can tell as an alumni being many years out, it helps to know these things. And so that is extremely cool that Mr. Kravis helped us, build that and whatnot. And it sounds like Claremont really, really knows what they're doing with the Science Center.
Should be interesting. Yes.
Yeah. To kind of bring us back for a second, you're the alumni director, and so you probably keep tabs on individuals, sure, post graduation, but you might have some interesting insight about the class of 2009, where they are, how much they've given, who knows, and so on and so forth since 2009. Could you share just some updates or whatever data you may have been able to pull about the class of 2009?
Sure, happy to, Eric. I do want to correct and make sure that everyone remembers that Evan Rudder, class of '06, really is the alumni
Sorry,
director.
I don't want to spread misinformation.
Uh, but uh, but yes, but I still help Evan and am very engaged in supporting the work of our alumni and
Yes.
trying to get them to stay engaged with the campus. So I did look up some statistics for your class, um, which are there are 303 people in your class.
Okay.
25 non-graduates are included in that number. So, and we have 288 active people in your class. So,
288 out of 303. That's pretty good, I'd say.
yes, right, yes, and you've been good donors to the alumni fund.
Love to hear
Of
that.
the class, only 13 people have never donated to the college. So everyone else beside those 13, the total, which I just ran, $428,685.87.
Wow.
So getting almost to $500,000 donated
Yeah,
from your class, which is really great.
that's
It's
amazing.
a very engaged group. There are, I'm sorry to report, three deceased people in your
Hmm.
class. Atul Vyas, who
Of
passed
course.
away your
When we're
freshman
seniors.
year
Yeah,
in the train accident, and Adrian Boardman,
right.
who
Of
died
course.
just a few months after you graduated,
Right.
and Regan Raharja, who joined with you, as an international student, and
That's
Regan
right.
died a
That's right.
couple of years after you graduated. So
Hmm.
that's the sad note. An interesting note that I found in looking at this is that you're a very California and US based class.
Hmm.
There are not very many of you living abroad now.
Hmm.
Looks like two in Europe, two in India, two in
Wow.
Singapore, one each in Thailand, Philippines, Taiwan, and Australia. And the biggest country that you're in after the US, Korea, with
Wow.
three.
Wow.
No one in Canada, no one in Mexico,
Wow.
which
Crazy.
is which is unusual. Most
Sure.
classes are a little more geographically spread out internationally than you are. Um, you were from an era when the college did not have financial aid for international students,
Hmm.
so that could be one thing, and I think that's a really good change that's happened to the campus over time, especially
Hmm.
with the the $1 billion fundraising campaign that we just ended last year that I mentioned. It included raising funds, a lot more funds for financial aid for all students, but especially now we do have some funds to offer international students.
Oh, that's great.
So that has helped us, and the admission on the admission front, really trying to spread out and not just have all the international students be from China and India.
Sure.
We have
Sure.
students from lots of countries in Africa now, including one
Great.
who won a Rhodes Scholarship this year.
Oh, that's
And
amazing. Wow.
so, yeah, yeah. And we won a Rhodes, a CMC alumna won a Rhodes Scholarship last year. So we have two in a row, which is pretty good for CMC.
What I'm hearing is that if I had applied today, maybe I wouldn't get in.
Um, I'm
Just
sure
up
you
and up
would.
for all the folks. We're getting better and better quality people to come to Claremont.
Yeah. I mean, the college is on the admission front is very
Great.
strong.
Great. That's great. That's great.
And I don't think anyone from your class has a kid who's enrolled at CMC yet.
That would be a little early. They would have had to be a parent. Gosh, they would have. I mean, they
Yeah,
would have to have been a parent when they were at Claremont, right?
yeah,
So that would have been a little tough.
I'm
But
sure.
I'm sure, look, I know that I've kept in good touch with a lot of people from our class, and I'm really hoping that as many people can make it to the reunion as possible. But I also know that for so many people, they're having a kid, maybe it's their first, maybe it's their second, maybe it's more than their second, and it can be difficult to get away. And so I think we're in that era where we're talking about Claremont class of, gosh, what would that be? Like 20, almost 20, like 48 or something like that. 20, no,
Probably.
2045 maybe. I don't know, how old are you when you graduate college? 21, 22.
Yes.
So 2045. And I'm hoping that we get someone to come to Claremont soon, but of course we're just a little too young for that, I think, still. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But bringing kids back to campus, as I
Yeah.
mentioned, I looked at Occidental because, I thought that's what a liberal arts college should be like.
Right.
And I think, it's really cool to see alumni bringing their children, their families back for alumni weekend
Yeah. Yeah.
and other things too.
Right. Right. No, people should bring their kid back. I was back on campus in February and I was amazed at how state of the art it felt. There was not gosh, what is it? Is it the Kravis Center, the new academic building that's next to Hegblade, the library? There's, Claremont dorm was built or finalized when we were seniors. So we were the first class to sort of inhabit that. But now
Right.
there's,
Claremont
uh,
dorm.
Claremont. Well, now it's
You mean
now it's
Crown?
Crown, right? Exactly. What it was called Claremont Dorm when we were there, right?
Yes.
Which
Yes.
just speaks
We
to
had a new Claremont dorm that's now called Valac Hall. So
oh
we
wow,
actually dedicate the newest dorm next month when we have a trustee lunch and invite the campus for the
wow,
new dorm of Valac Hall.
wow. Maybe you can share. I know that we've been talking sort of backwards, looking about the last 15 years. If you could just briefly sum up, what are the things you're most proud of about Claremont in the last 15 years, and where do you hope it to be, say, 15 years from now?
Wow. Yeah. Well, um, it's a it's an interesting fact that the aspirations of the college continue to grow, the
Mm,
aspirations of the students and the faculty, and to make those aspirations real, it takes money. And that's not the fundraiser talking. That's just the truth. Whatever we want to do, more financial aid, more students from you name it. More students studying abroad, more students going to Washington D.C. or Silicon Valley, more professors doing things, more teams traveling around the country for games and championships. Whatever you think of, it just takes more money.
yeah,
And so I think I'm probably most proud of the fact that Claremont is doing really well on the fundraising front.
good.
This $1 billion campaign. We're the first liberal arts college to raise $1 billion. Pomona's last campaign, I think they raised $350 million. So we're
3x. Love
leapfrogging,
that. Love that.
leapfrogging other liberal arts
Love that.
colleges, and that just really means that the college has the ability to attract the best students and faculty and give them the facilities that they need. I mean, we're building this new state of the art Robert Day Sciences Center, which will, I mean, it'll be an amazing,
Yeah.
an amazing building and an amazing thing for our students to have.
Yeah.
And of course, the whole new sports bowl, I think, will give us some outdoor athletic facilities that
Right.
kind of match the quality of what we see in Roberts Pavilion now.
Right.
And we know that that has been so essential in attracting so many students who are interested, I mean, in athletics, because about half the students were athletes in high school.
Mm,
A third of the students are varsity athletes now, still on campus, but everyone is interested in health and
sure.
wellness.
Good.
So having that facility, I think, will really enhance things. And as you look ahead, I mean, I think the college's growing reputation around the world is is the thing that we really need to keep enhancing that will help us attract those students and faculty who we really want. I
Yeah.
noticed that the Wall Street Journal just 2 days ago published a new thing in which Claremont, I think we were sixth in the nation for salaries for people going into financial careers
Mm,
of all universities, colleges, and universities. I mean, it's some amazing statistics for Claremont,
yeah.
and the ability to attract the kind of people who like CMC's focused mission, looking at public affairs, the professions, government, econ, things like
Yeah.
that.
It's interesting you mentioned this. I mean, I well with so much pride about all things Claremont. And one of them is, I'm a firm believer in a liberal arts degree and background in college and that type of experience. And I know that at times you can get sort of pegged as someone who maybe has your head in the clouds and you don't have anything real or practical by way of, experience that you can have entering the workforce. And my experience was the opposite at Claremont. I was a PPE major and I shorthand tell people I'm a philosophy major. And I felt that there were so many classes that I took at Claremont that really impacted, my ability to do well in consulting when I graduated or later on, doing product or startups or wherever it may be. And so no surprise then that we do well in terms of salaries and we can compete with all these other schools. We're coming up on time. So I want to have just a quick rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
When you were a student at Claremont, your favorite professor?
George Charles Sumner Benson, the founding president of the college, who was teaching ethics classes
Mm,
for the government department when I was a student. And I wrote my senior
yeah, hence
thesis.
your thesis. Yeah. Favorite class?
Well, was probably doing my
That same
senior
class.
thesis.
Yeah.
I think for most people, the senior thesis is such a transformative thing. And I wrote about congressional ethics. I really enjoyed that experience.
Yeah. Favorite memory?
Favorite memory? Um, favorite memory. I mean, probably it would have something to do with the sailing classes.
Oh,
You
of
can see
course.
back here, I've taught sailing now at the college for 34 years, maybe.
Wow. Wow.
Um, so just, being able to spend time sailing with so many great students. And I mean, two of the classes got organized. One, we ended up sailing in the British Virgin Islands. Another went and
Amazing.
sailed around the Greek islands. So
Amazing.
I think that's been a really cool thing to be able to introduce so many CMC students over the years to the sport of sailing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember you're a great sailor and taking people out, and it's a great memory that a lot of people, some of people's favorite memories of Claremont are sailing with you. Favorite party?
Favorite party? Probably when you got elected student body president and I took you out to lunch.
That's right.
I had just inherited my father's little Mercedes sports car, and we went out to lunch.
We did go out to lunch. I remember that. And I remember you actually on the way back, you gave me the keys and you said, "Why don't you drive us back?" And I was so terrified. I've never been more terrified that I was going to be in an accident in my entire life, but it is one of my favorite memories of being at Claremont.
Oh,
So that's a good answer. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
cool.
Um, and final question, finish this sentence. An alumni should reach out to chat with me to talk about.
To talk about enhancing their legacy at CMC. Whether that's helping students with jobs and careers or helping with the fundraising because they want to set up an endowment or name a classroom in the new building to help us recruit students, interviewing students, just finding ways to stay connected and be helpful with the college. I'd
Yeah.
love to help anyone in the great class of '09 do that.
I'm raising my hand now. You can call on me for any of that stuff.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
happy to help, and I want to make as much of an impact on the college as I can, and I'm sure the other O9ers do as well.
Yeah, well, it's
John,
so great to welcome people back to campus. You'll be interested to know that we're planning to recreate a Ward Elliott singing party
oh,
because we
amazing.
now have a fire pit on campus.
Oh,
So we're going to
amazing.
gather around the fire pit during alumni weekend to
Awesome.
remember Professor Elliott, who
Awesome.
passed away a year ago, and
Right.
have a little singing party.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're still honoring him. I know that he would be thrilled to know that the singing parties will continue, and that's a great tradition to uphold. Um,
Thank you, Rick.
John, this was lovely. Thank you so much for making the time. People
Thank
should reach
you.
out to you to talk about how they can keep making an impact at Claremont, and
Okay.
looking forward to many people seeing you at Reunion.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take
Yes,
care.
bye-bye.